Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to our Legal and Finance Committee meeting for Wednesday, September 28th, 2022. Let's start with a roll call and determination of quorum, please.
Armstrong?
Here.
Roseland? Here. Nordstrom?
Here.
Solomon? Here. Jones?
Here.
We have a quorum.
Thank you. I'll take an adoption of the agenda.
Second.
Got a second, we have a motion by Mr. Solomon, a second by Mr. Nordstrom. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. All right, moving along to general public comment. This is a time for members of the public to discuss or express concerns to the council on any issue not on the agenda. Action will not be taken at the meeting or any issue not on the agenda except by placement on the agenda by unanimous vote of the council members present. Do we have any people? None that we can see. Thank you. We're going to close public comment now. Moving along, we're going to start with the fire department. We have two representatives. We have a presentation. Welcome, gentlemen.
Yeah, I want to appreciate these two for coming. Put a lot of work into this grant, so I felt it best to have them talk about it since they're the experts on all this, so it'll be good. And then I can fill in anything that needs to be done after that.
Thank you, Chief Culberson. Gentlemen, you have the floor.
Thank you.
And just to be clear before they start, this is on number 3, the Community Wildfire Defense Grant.
Got it. All right, make sure you're talking to the mic.
Okay. Good afternoon. My name is Eric O'Connor. I'm the Wildfire Mitigation Lieutenant for the Fire Department here within the city. I think most of you have already worked with Tim Weaver, my predecessor in the past. Tim retired last year, and I was fortunate enough to take over his position within the program. And like the chief explained, we are actively pursuing grants all the time with our program to provide continuing service to the city. And this following one that we will discuss today is the Community Wildfire Defense Grant, the CWDG, which is a bipartisan bill that was passed down off the federal level to basically prevent or to mitigate the wildfire risks within the communities such as ours. And we've been working with representatives of the Forest Service. It's been a very quick turnaround. We've only had about a month to prepare and deliver an application, and they've basically told us the same of we're basically building this plane while we're flying it, and they just really appreciate the participation. But anyway, if you have just a moment, we'll just talk just a kind of a quick reminder of our program, the wildfire program that we have, and then if you have any questions about the grant that we're pursuing. Again, we developed the Survivable Space Initiative within the Rapid City over a decade ago, and we've done a lot of good things for our community. As you can see with the presentation there, just a quick definition of the wildland urban interface, right? The WUI is what we call it, and it's basically the zone of a transition between the wilderness, which is unoccupied land, and then developed by human activity. And it says right there in the definition, an area where the built-in environment meets or intermingles with the natural environment. And then this is right off their definition that these areas are at a greater risk for a catastrophic wildfire. According to wildfirerisk.org, which is a federal program, our community is at an 87% risk, percentile, I should say, for the country, with the surrounding areas between 90 and 95 percentile. So we have a very high fire risk here, which you're all pretty familiar with. Just to cover really quick, we talked about, or The Schroederer Fire, which happened last year, March 29th, 2,224 acres burned. The suppression cost of that fire was $1.7 million. One primary home was lost. Two buildings were also burned. Over 400 evacuations to our community. But what I'd like to point out is this picture here that if you look at the black side of the road is one of our fuels treatment areas where we actually caught the fire, and then to the picture's left is the beginning of the Pinedale Heights subdivision. So this fuels treatment played an integral role of protecting our community. Less than $400,000 in fuel mitigation efforts have been done in this neighborhood. Here's a quick map of the Schroeder Fire. It's a little blurry, I know, but the orange is the fire footprint, and if you can see, the blue are the fuels treatments. And I'd like to point out the one there in the upper northwest, or the northeast corner there by the yellow, which is the city limits. That was where that picture was taken. And our goal, obviously, is to basically build a defensible buffer all the way around the city, which we're getting there, but we have a long ways to go. And then also the other one that we had last year was the Auburn. So two significant wildfires in 2021 that burned over 5,000 acres total. Auburn burned 968 acres and $2.1 million to suppress. So just to talk a little bit more about what our program does, 2022 alone, we've treated over 400 acres. A lot of that has been the High Point development out on Sheridan Lake Road area, which has been great for us to basically build that a box to shelter the city in the event of a fire coming from the west, from the hills. We've spent over $300,000 in our grant funding that we receive from Western States Fire Managers, the Bureau of Land Management, and overall expenses have been over $500,000, which includes property owner contributions. Okay. This is what we're actually talking about today is the Community Wildfire Defense Grant. And again, it's a little blurry, but you also have a publication there at your desk. But basically what it covers is it's targeting communities that are at risk, and then also scoring identity or priorities, I should say, are identified by wildfire risk, which we obviously qualify for, low-income communities, which we're pursuing that as well, of kind of focusing our efforts into some of these neighborhoods, and then also was your community impacted by a severe disaster in the last 10 years? And we have two now, plus Winter Storm Atlas that we're also using because of the downed trees. Just a couple things, the eligibility, we meet that. No more than 10 million will be is the cap. We are not pursuing that big of a number. And then the biggest part of this is the grant does require a 25% match. So our proposal is basically, this is very summarized, but it's a 5-year agreement. We are pursuing a position of a lead crew member, 6 seasonal employees, chainsaws, hand tools, towable chipper, kind of what tools that we need to do the job, truck to pull it to remove the chips, a UTV to drive our equipment around and to pull the trees out of the area, and then associated tools with that, and a Caterpillar, a track loader to move the equipment. Where we would like to focus our efforts on are the high-risk areas. This is a picture of the Neptune fire last week, Star Village area, and as you see in the picture, you also see the burn scars on Skyline, M Hill, and the Schroederer in the background, right? So we want to focus on these areas. The target areas include Cabot Hill, all the way to Auburn Hills, kind of boxing it in there between the Auburn Wildfire scar, and then areas that we've already treated. The buffer around Star Village, continuing treatments to the Skyline Wilderness area and Hanson Larson Memorial Park. And I just really want to stress the importance of strengthening both the boundary all the way around the city, but then also protecting ourselves from these small internal pockets of wildland urban interface, and such as a Skyline, Star Village. Our goal is to treat 100 to 150 acres per year, and that's primarily mechanical thinning, cutting trees down and chipping them and taking them to the landfill for mulch. But then also we have a small prescribed fire component to that as well. The broadcast of burning, like we had pursued a couple other areas with the outdoor campus and up by Fire Station 6. Pretty low impact to that, but also a very integral part of our program. So we're looking at treating over 500 acres then over the duration of the grant. But then if we were able to keep this equipment, we would obviously treat over 1,500 acres over 10 years or more. And then reapplication treatments are basically based to a 10-year cycle, which will fall into, we will never really run out of work. I would just like to also kind of remind you that we already do have a Bureau of Land Management Veterans Program, and what we'd like to do is bolster this of what we already have. We have 2 of them working now. We just are really struggling getting veterans to apply and everything like that. So the workforce, we're doing very well, but the 2 or 3 of us out on the chainsaws is just not really meeting the goals of what we want. And this grant would work together very well with the program that we have to meet those objectives. And it's just a couple introductions of the folks that we have there today. And again, that's my contact information. That was way longer than I originally planned, but I definitely appreciate your time. Do you have any questions for us?
Mr. Jones, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chairman. Question about the matching grant. You said 25%. Is that 25% of the $2.3 million figure?
Yes, and I apologize, I totally ran over. The only thing you're actually probably really looking for is numbers. So 2.2 million is what we're pursuing. The 25% match can be wages, the in kind, and we actually just by utilizing our our wages, contributions, we are 37% above where we need to be. We're above where we need to be. So no additional funding will be needed from the city.
Thank you for that. And then another question, is that 1 year worth of funding and in-kind match, or is that over the 5 years?
Over the 5 years for the whole program. Yes.
So 2.3 million for the 5 years. Our estimated matching amount, 579,000, I just did some math, 579,000 plus or minus of in-kind over 5 years.
Yes, sir.
Okay, well, we would definitely make that if we can count wages and all that kind of stuff. That's not an issue at all. Okay, thank you very much.
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Jones. Mr. Solomon, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you very much for the presentation. Actually, we like hearing those kind of details. Also, just want to give a shout out to our fire department for the work you did do last week on the Neptune fire up in Star Village area. Obviously, those can get dicey, and so I appreciate all that you do. My question, and maybe this is for the chief, but I don't know if it's for you, but it's a question I ask every time. So other than the 25% match, great question by Dr. Jones, other than the 25% match, what requirements or strings are attached for the city?
Sure. So I'll dive in at first, and then I'll let the chiefs take over. So we will document our acres treated quarterly, and we turn that in to the program, to the Forest Service, and then the what do I want to say? The reimbursements that come back to the city, as we draw down the funds. Strings attached. Well, I'll let you take over from there. Yeah, that's where my job really leaves.
Yeah. Division Chief Primus for Life Safety. There are no strings. It's more a documentation and giving our reports up to the federal, government, the forester, basically the forestry. And it's not a lump sum. They just don't give us all that money. We have steps we have to go through with the federal forest. Like if we want to buy equipment, we have to get approved by them. So there's checks and balances in there. And at the end of the 5-year period, for some reason, if we weren't able to continue this process, which, I don't foresee that, the equipment's owned by the federal government until it's below $2,000 value. So we get to use it and maintain it, and this project's really important. We're trying to speed up what we've already got in place for mitigation around the community to build that buffer. And a lot of people don't understand how important this buffer is. It basically slows the fire down, gets rid of the fuels. It slows that freight train down so it's safer for wildland firefighting and gives us a chance to get a hold of the fire and try to slow it down and extinguish it. So with the big fuel loads where it's not treated, as you can see across the nation and on the news all the time, how they're rolling through communities. Well, a lot of communities don't have this in place, and that's why the federal government deemed this important to address. So, thank you. And this is a beautiful area. It's one of the reasons we all chose to live here. Part of the risk of that is the wildland fires that we've seen happen both inside city limits. I'm just thinking up on Cowboy Hill, just 5, 6, 7 years, something like that. But when I first got on council, and then we've seen it obviously just on the rim of our community and beyond. So anything that we can do to be able to help with that. So with the communication plan that you have to give back as part of our requirements, I think it'd be great for us to know just progress, how things are going with creating these buffer zones along the way. I think that's good for us to know, and especially those questions come up when we do see fires and people want to know what have we been doing proactively. It'd be great to already have that information before we ever even need it. Yeah, we'll definitely be doing that, and we're also trying to work with the state and the federal on areas that they've treated around the community. There's federal land and there's state land, on creating a map just for us to know like what areas have been treated, so we can tie these loops in and get these, instead of having spot area properties where we've treated, we're trying to do a continuous I call make the city an island, you know, cover it. And this project particularly it would be northwest Rapid, kind of by the Auburn Fire area, and we have a good plan in place to get that whole area treated. You know, so we got one side of the city covered, and then we're just going to keep working as projects go through.
Okay,
So,
thank you.
Thank you.
I yield. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, Mr. Solomon. Mr. Nordstrom?
Thank you, Madam Chair. A couple of comments for Lieutenant O'Connor and Chief Primus. I also want to thank you for the control of the Neptune fire as well, because that's awful close to some neighbors that we have in my neighborhood. So thank you for staying on top of it and getting that under control in a relatively quick order. I got a couple of questions on the memo that you have for us. The dollar amount is looking very good, but a little more specificity on the city's contribution has to do with a different number that I'm reading here. Don't mean to put you on the spot or counter what you're suggesting, what we have for the 5-year contribution or matching funds. Yes, could you address that point?
Yeah, so what we have for the matching part, you know, we have it broke down just for the budget. Get my glasses.
You too, huh?
We have hours for myself, and you know, broke down throughout the year for many of the people. But we also have a Type 6 engine that we'll be using for when we do the controlled burns. So you can build that out by the hours. The track loader that we have right now, and we're going for another one part of this grant to double the equipment so we can get more acres done faster. And like the Kubota UTV and a dump trailer, and then our dump truck. So all those we can bill out by the federal standards, you know, that we're using our equipment for the in-kind part. So it's not just the hours. So basically the contribution is 8,666.
866.
Yeah, for our in-kind contribution, that's all those areas. And then, if that helps you with the percentages?
So I think the question, sorry, I'll jump in.
Yeah, perfect.
Chief Culberson, but I think your big question is that's more than what we really need to give in 25%. And when we sat down and we worked through all these figures, it gave us a buffer, and we actually started at about 50% match just by going through some simple math. But we pared down to get to realistic what we had. Some of the stuff we have and we're going to use in these, and so we knew how many hours there were going to be. That'll get narrowed down, probably closer to that $500,000 area, but we wanted to make sure we had plenty of buffer in there to absorb that we knew we could match that 25% without a doubt. And this is, I think, some fairly conservative numbers on usage of equipment we've already have. So I think we're in there. So yeah, it is a little different than what we're required to give, but I think we're in a good spot that we're showing that we can meet that easily.
Thank you, Chief. I see that as a bragging point.
Yes.
So I think it's a useful data point. One other thing in these, before I leave on to another budget question, is there the use of drones available for us?
Unfortunately, no. The grant actually specifically stated no drones.
No drones.
So just one little word, no drones.
Okay,
So,
very good. Going back to the budgeting, or at least the memo that you have here, it says Rapid City is considered an 87% greater risk for wildfire. Can you elaborate on that? I think that's an interesting point and the public should be aware of.
Sure, I'll pick that one back up. That's based off of several factors, and I can email you probably more information than you care to read in a day. But on what that's based upon is the fuel types, weather patterns, fuel moistures, all kinds of different environmental factors, and then also built into the community as well, and where homes are placed and everything like that, and like fire regimes of like fire intervals of basically how often a wildfire happens within that area. And the Schroederer Fire is a perfect example of being almost identical within the Westbury Trails fire burn scar of '88. You know, we have fires, and we will have fires. You know, and that's like one of our big messages to the public. And that's another aspect of this program, quick, is we do really want to boast our public education portion of this as well. So it's not only out there cutting the trees, it's also doing a full public education aspect of that as well.
I think that's very good.
But
yes.
yeah, the 87% is based, and that's actually pretty conservative. Of yeah, Piedmont, Blackhawk are at 95 or so, or like where I live off of Nemo Road is up into the 90s for sure. That's a pretty interesting when you think about that, of either California, you know, Colorado. Everybody kind of has that feel of when you're watching the news and you see a fire somewhere else, you know, oh, there's a fire over there, but I don't really think it could happen to me, right? You know, and we're not into the scare tactics of the public education side of it. We just want to be totally transparent with
Yes,
everybody
I agree.
living
You
here.
don't want to frighten the
Right,
public.
no.
Just give them the facts.
Yep, exactly.
The last item I have for you is, can you share a little bit more information on the veterans that you're utilizing?
Yeah, sir. So this is an outstanding program that we have. It's been in a play for almost 10 years now. It's an agreement between the Bureau of Land Management, and they support the city by providing, you know, wages to our crew, the fuels crew. So the fuels crew is, they are a city employee, but their wages are fully reimbursed by the Bureau of Land Management, and it's on an annual. Well, it's also a 5-year agreement. We just opened a new agreement with them earlier this year. That will extend for a minimum of 5 years. And we have a really good working relationship with them. Well, actually last week we were contacted by the BLM, basically asking if it was all right if their biggest administration out of Boise, Idaho, and Washington and D.C. comes to showcase our program, and that'll be a first part of this coming year. And they want to basically see what we've done with all their money and everything, and so we're currently working on a big proposal of a show and a tell of all the acres that we've treated, all the public education contacts that we do, everything like that, and they're very proud of what we do. We send them quarterly newsletters and pictures of the crews and everything like that, and they really support us a lot. And what it is these employees are a city employee, a temporary non-benefited seasonal position, basically under the Parks Department, and that's another shout I would like to definitely give is to the Parks Department. They do all the maintenance on our equipment, and we currently park a lot of our equipment there, and everything like that. So we have a really good working relationship with the Parks Department as well. And these employees then, it's really geared towards bringing a veteran back in to the local workforce. And we provide training, education for them. Several of our crew members have now moved on to the full-time fire department. Our Our latest one is kind of our showcase employee. He's basically #1 in the class, and is a kind of a shining star within that, and it really boasts our program. We also send them off to other jobs, Forest Service, Park Service, doctors, law school, kind of every direction from here on out. And we have a track record of every vet that's come through the program. That we could definitely share with you if anyone was ever interested to find out where everybody is. And we keep in touch with a lot of them, and they're all doing really well. So,
Thanks, Lieutenant.
yeah, thank you
I'm
for
gonna
asking.
Follow up on Alderman Solomon suggestion about the reports. So if you do that, CC us to us, the city council members on that report that you send in.
Yes, sir.
I think that'll be sufficient.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr.
you.
Nordstrom. Mr. Jones?
Thank you for the second time at the microphone, Madam Chairman. I appreciate it. Just briefly, this is the exact kind of stuff that we, as the council, as committees of the council, as fire departments, et cetera, are to be doing for our citizens of Rapid City. We are charged to protect the financial aspects of the city as well as everything about the way we interact and live. So we need to act and prevent tragedies and problems rather than clean up the mess a situation may cause. And this is a perfect example of that. And as other things come forward to the council that may place our citizens in jeopardy or cause problems, we need to respond and act in this type of a manner that our fire department is doing and other departments do, rather than just hope that nothing bad happens and clean up the mess later. So I applaud you gentlemen for bringing this forward and for your continuing efforts. One time I visited a home, a gentleman that applied for some kind of a permit or something from the city, and I went out and looked at it, and I didn't know we did any kind of fire mitigation. So I sat down with the chief one day in his office, petted the dog a lot, and he told me all the things that we do as far as going out to people's homes and helping them, know what tree to cut down and how much space there has to be and all this stuff. What a tremendous service to our citizens that they get simply for paying taxes. So these kinds of things are vital, and I'm thrilled that we're doing this on a long haul. Thank you very much. That's it.
Thank you, Mr. Jones, and if my colleagues will allow me, I want to share a personal experience. Just goes to show you're always learning something in this role. I didn't know that we did this until last year. Mr. Weaver came out before he retired. Was that you that came out? I know there's a bunch of O'Connors that came out
Yes,
to my
he initiated it, and we followed up.
Okay.
Yes.
So my husband loves his privacy. We have a couple acres, and it was very overgrown, and of course he liked it. But from a safety aspect, the Schroederer Fire didn't quite get to us, but we were getting ready to evacuate. We were ready to go, and let me tell you, that's pretty scary. So over the years, my husband was not picking up on my hints of I'd buy him a chainsaw, and then a bigger chainsaw, and then finally I got the big granddaddy one. It's a lot of work to do that. And if you wanted to pay out of pocket, it's in the tens of thousands. So working with our wonderful fire department, talk about public education. I learned a lot about it. Laddering, am I impressing you with the two?
Yes, ma'am.
I learned a lot about it and how these things kind of get overgrown. And I think it's really important that we as, not just council members, but just property owners be proactive in this. You're investing in your property. You're also being a good neighbor. I mean, think about if you had something that started on your property and it used all that fire fuel to spread. And it's also being a responsible community member. Working with you, thanks again, it's a very simple process. They give you a list of people that are doing this. You call them, you find what would be a good fit, you interview them, they bid out. You made it very easy. Everyone came basically to us, and once we decided who we picked, it was done within 5 days. And I don't know if you remember how much they removed from our property, 10 tons of timber. That was huge, and I think over 30 trips to our landfill. It was kind of a shock to our family to see how much was taken, but thank you, I got to keep the trees that I wanted. And it was an overall great experience, and the best, I think we invested maybe a couple $1,000s out of our pocket and had these matched. So I cannot commend you enough. I think this is a great program. I personally benefited from it. My neighbors benefited from it as well, and just keep up the great work. And I will yield from that. Any other questions?
Can I have one more?
Please.
I just want to make a point that a lot of, there's things out there that they don't know what our project is, and they think we're clear cutting away from the house. And what this process is, it actually makes the forest healthy.
Yep.
And the ecosystem healthy. So I just wanted to put that tidbit out there too. It's, we care about the forest and its health. So this project benefits that also.
It's a win-win for everybody, so thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you for your time.
Yeah, thank you very much for your time.
Very.
Great. All right, moving right along. Chief, do you want to go over number 2?
Sure. The Community Health Worker Grant, we went with this one last year also. It's a grant from the state of South Dakota to provide training for some of our mobile medics to get community health care workers certified. It's a different way of approaching some of the issues we have throughout our community, and find that it's been a huge success for us. It's been a huge success by us utilizing this grant for the state of South Dakota. So they contacted us again and wanted to know if we wanted to use some more of their money in order to provide some of the service. And we have, of course, politely obliged and want to apply for that. It will go for training, number 1, and then if we need some equipment, non-capital equipment, but some certain items that we've used to purchase through the state. In answer to the question, no real strings attached. They really don't even require us to report too much, other than we use it for the community health worker grant portion of that. That is somewhat of a lie. There is plenty of reporting, but it's not as stringent as the federal government, and there's no real other requirements other than reporting back that we purchased that equipment and asking for reimbursement for that.
Okay, thank you, Chief. Okay, moving along to our interim director, Davis, number 4, 5, 6, and you can take 9, too.
Want me to do 11 and 12 as well?
Oh, yeah, and 11 and 12. Yep, you're all over the place today, yeah.
So item 4 is some volunteers for work comp purposes. Item 5 is to approve or acknowledge an update from the Opportunity Capture Fund Committee that was held on September 8th. They made a recommendation to give $300,000 to Phase Technologies for an expansion that they're planning. Item 6 is a request from the Opportunity Capture Fund Vision allocation. They are currently slated for just over $1 million in 2024. They requested if they could ask the money to be moved to 2022, because after that $300,000 award, there's only $28,000 available for them to use. So they just were wondering if it would be an option. We do have in excess of $2 million more than what we had projected as revenue in the Vision Fund. Item 9 is second reading of a supplemental appropriation. There were no changes from the first reading. Item 11 is the August sales or general fund balance report. There currently is about $12.6 million in undesignated cash available. And item 12 is the July sales tax report, where we are up 7.45%.
Let's just kind of go through them and then we can go back, okay? All right, moving right along. City Attorney's Office, 7 and 8, as well as 10.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I believe the assignment agreement is a pretty standard assignment agreement for our tax increment district to the bank for financing. I would defer to Alderman Nordstrom for the youth city council. I'm not familiar with that. 10 is the lots across from the fire station up off Highway 16. We did receive an offer. The offer was, I'll have to look at the link. The initial offer was for $2,300,000. We had listed it for $2,530,000. We came back and countered at $2,398,000. It was really based on a per square footage price. You know, there was different values for the two parcels, significantly different values per square foot, but I want to say the list price for the total parcel was like $7.81, and the initial offer was $7.19, and we came back at $7.50 a square foot, which was the assessed value for the appraised value for the larger parcel of the two, and that offer was accepted. There are some additional conditions. You know, the developer is the owner of the apartments across the street, would like to develop apartments there, additional apartments. So one of the conditions of the sale is that ultimately the city approve. It's in a, I think there's some rezones and plan development that would need to occur. So if the city were to choose not to approve the plans, then the sale would not be closed on and we would have to relist the property. But assuming that, I think planning has indicated they believe apartments are appropriate at this location. So I don't foresee any problems, but ultimately it'll depend on what the specific proposal is. So if you approve it, they would start proceeding with seeking approval of their plans and ultimately set a closing once we know when those approvals will be finalized.
That contingency's in there?
That contingency is in there. So, but I would think that we're hoping by early next year we'd have all the rezones approvals, could close on the property, and then they could start their project. And per a previous resolution, the proceeds from the sale will go into the fire CIP, and I think the fire department has some use for that funds that hopefully you're aware of.
Great. Thank you. That's it. Anybody want to pull some items? Mr. Jones? Okay, Mr. Jones, item 12.
Thank you, Chairman. Question for the interim finance officer, please. Thank you. Tracy, what was the percentage again of the increase in the sales tax?
7.45.
Okay. Now, I know I met with some folks from Elevate Rapid City. I know several of us did, asking, or they were asking this request for the money early, and I support everything that they do. I'm going to talk like Danny Downer for just a second and ask us to make sure we keep in mind, because during our budget talks we were talking about, oh, well, we can pay for this, this out of excess sales tax, we can pay for that out of excess sales tax, and like it was a bottomless cup of coffee at Perkins. This 7%, although it's great to see that it's up, that's also about what inflation is. So we have to keep in mind, is it up because of inflation, or is it new spending, new money that's coming forward? We have to be very careful about that. Everything that I've heard and been told is that it's not necessarily new revenue, it's the same amount that we would be expecting, just higher because of inflation. So does that mean we have extra money to do things with? Maybe, maybe not, but I just encourage us to keep that in mind as we go forward, as we don't have maybe as much extra money as we hope or think we do. Or Tracy, if I'm way off rolling around in a pile of fugitive dust, would you just let me know so I can get back on track? Tracy?
You're good.
Am I accurate in my assumptions?
Sure.
Thank you.
When we were budgeting for sales tax, we were using 2 to 2.5% of an increase.
So, and I probably support the request from Elevate for this, as they do tremendous things for us. Just we have to keep in mind that simply because, wow, hey, it's up 7%, it's not, or it's probably not new money. It's just keeping us even to where we need to be. So, Tracy, thank you for that, and I yield.
Thank you, Mr. Jones. Mr. Solomon, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you, Dr. Jones, for your comments and your question. You actually make a good point, and the point being that we don't know what the end of the year is going to bring. We know it's going to be better than expected. Hopefully. Thank you. Hopefully better than we expect. That's a little bit of a risk that we take, but usually fourth quarter ends pretty strong for us with the holidays and everything. But we have some variables out there that we don't know about. We have a compensation study that is due that will shift things. I'm going to assume that's going to shift things. We're going to need the margin in order to make any necessary adjustments to that. The second thing, though, this Opportunity Capture Fund is amazing. What we are approving today is $300,000 towards Phase Technologies. This is a company that's grown here in Rapid City, and they're growing so much that they're going to create new jobs, well-paying jobs for people here locally. This isn't some pipe dream of some company coming in. This is investing in a company that's already here. So that's a good investment for the city. We get a return on this investment too. This Opportunity Capture Fund is not new funding that's being requested. It's actually something we are already going to do. The question for us to ask is, do we want to advance it so that we can pursue any possibilities in the next year, because we're using up our Opportunity Capture Fund for this particular project? I have a feeling in the next year there's going to be other opportunities, and I'd like to put us in a position to do something. And this Opportunity Capture Fund is about bringing good paying jobs, and in order for it to pay out, they have to prove it. It's not a hope, it's a, when you do this, this is what happens. And so we've learned a lot of lessons over the years. That's why I'm okay with it, because it's an investment that we're going to get back. It's not new money that's unbudgeted. It is actually money that we will have, but it would be nice to have it in there in case that we need it. So, you know, if we wanted to compromise and say, let's wait till the end of the year and see how it goes, I'm okay with that. I don't think it's a rush, but at the same time, I think it is good to have that tool available to us to pursue any possibilities that we might see. This kind of does tag along with item 12 and looking at our projections. And I think that's the thing that we have to be careful of. Our expenses are going to go up. So I keep saying this, as great as things are, we know that there's the other side of the equation sits there. And rent comes due at some point, either with how you pay people or the cost of fuel or building buildings, whatever the case may be. And that's a great time for us to view what that undesignated cash is going to be and how we can strategically use that. Obviously, CIP is always going to be a great way, but if there are anything else that we can all agree on, I think that'd be the only caution. So I'm okay with it today because we're going to do it anyways. I would be okay if we wanted to wait a few months too. I don't think it would hurt Elevate Rapid City's feelings either. But I think what we want to do is be poised to strike at these opportunities. We're competing with other communities for good paying jobs, and when we have good paying jobs, it helps everybody. We know that. So those two things I think are very important. The other thing I want to just highlight real quick, the Youth City Council. I think one thing we can do, Mr. Nordstrom had some concerns about, you know, them having to come back with an approval every time. Maybe one challenge we can do is to do it like the City Council does and have them develop a budget that's approved with things that are allocated, and then we can approve the budget, and it gives them a little bit of flexibility. And if there's anything over a certain dollar amount that we think needs a second pair of eyes on, that would be fine. But maybe that's the better way, is that they actually have a budget that they approve, just like the city does, and then they spend that budget because it was approved in the way that we said. I was trying to think what efficiencies we could be gained. That's an idea, by the way. I don't know if it's great or not, but I thought I would throw that out there. So it's a few thoughts on a few items as we get ready to vote on them, but thank you for your time.
Mr. Nordstrom?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm going to kind of jump around to myself here on it. First of all, I want to applaud the Opportunity Capture Fund. I think Mr. Solomon has got a a point to take into consideration. But I only know of one company, and there may be others, but one company did default on their loan, and we had to get that money back. I'm not sure where we stand on that refund or money that came back to the Opportunity Capture Fund. So that's another consideration if that money is coming back into the Opportunity Capture Fund. I looked at the spreadsheet, but I didn't see that in there. So if it's in there, I apologize, I missed it. Then the other part that I'm going to jump to is just a reminder that on the sales tax collection, this is from July. So it's almost coming up on 3 months behind where we're at, because this would be essentially the money that came in the past. And so today's numbers are probably going to look different because we're always about 2 months behind on that. So I think it's something to take into consideration as well. The last item is number 8. There's a very good summary on it that has to do with the request that the Youth City Council is coming forward with. And essentially what it amounts to is just a marketing point that they want to try to do so to increase the visibility of the Youth City Council. I don't need to recite the whole summary that's attached to this item, but I think it explains it pretty well. But some of these concerns that I've been hearing about for the Youth City Council, I think we need to have a little bit more discussion on it than from the dais here, because from the comments that I've been subjected to is that I can agree with the concerns that I've been hearing. And if we can give the Youth City Council a little bit better guidelines on what they can use that, and I like the term budgeting as well. So if they come up with a process, if you will, to come up with a good budget. But I think the biggest problem is that when an unexpected event comes up, they have an opportunity to visit with the Wyoming Youth City Council, for example. There was one of those things that kind of came out of the blue. So the opportunity was missed, and we had to do a alternative to that process of meeting other youth city council members. So that's primarily one of the other reasons, but we just need to establish some better guidelines for the Youth City Council. So, and we'll be seeing some more on that in the future. And I know there's something else that I'm forgetting to mention as well, but that's enough from me for right now. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Roseland.
Thank you very much, Madam Chairman. I attended also the meeting at Elevate along with Councilman Evans, and I think they gave a good reasons why they need the extra money. It's not money that it's new. It's money that they would eventually receive in '24. So I really appreciate what they have done and what they are doing with the funds that are given to them. And I think the Elevate has been very positive for Rapid City. And so I will just let them know that I support them in what they're doing. I yield.
Thank you, Mr. Roseland. Mr. Jones.
Thank you very much, Chairman. Councilman Solomon touched on it a bit, but that wage study that's going to come out is probably going to make some serious recommendations about changes that we need to make in some of our payment. I think about our police department and how hard of a time we are having getting new officers, and I think we're around $28 an hour for new police officers. Anyone know if that's close? That's last I knew. And recruiting is obviously very difficult, and so we're going to have to look at that number very seriously, and look at $30, $32 an hour, something like that, so we can be competitive and take good care of those who take care of us. So I'm not against taking care of Elevate, not not by any stretch. I just want us to be just a little bit thoughtful of what the money actually is and isn't. So just want to make sure I'm clear on that. Thank you.
Mr. Solomon?
Thank you for letting me get back in here. I think 2 points. One, opportunity capture funds for Rapid City, not Elevate. Elevate is a partner in it, but it's a seat at the table. They're not the table.
Thank you. Thank
yeah.
you for clearing that.
So we have council leadership, city staff are involved in that, and other community partners. So they're part of the recommending, and they do a lot of the background research for us, but I want to make that very clear. This is a city thing.
Yeah.
Okay. And it's a vision fund deal that we just recoup.
And I apologize for misspeaking.
No, I
think
want to
it
make
kind of
sure
blended, so thank
everybody
you.
understood. We have new people, and when you don't know,
Thank you.
it's one of those things. It's a great deal. But secondly, if I may direct a question to our city attorney.
Sure.
Mr. Landine, just on item 10, just want to get your expert opinion. You think this is a good deal for the city? And this is with regards to the,
Yeah, no, I think it was a good deal. You know, right now, I think there was a group that discussed it. It wasn't a lone decision and felt like looking at the property sales around, you know, the tough thing right now is property sales have climbed pretty high, but I think everybody sees that, you know, we're also in a period where we might not be able to get what maybe even a year ago we could get, and nobody really wanted to sit on this property for another year or two. So it seemed like a good offer. It seemed fair.
no other offers
There were no other offers at
at
this
this
point.
price point? And I think having multi-units housing is certainly something that fits very well there and something we're on board with. So I appreciate that. Thank you.
Mr. Nordstrom?
Question for interim finance director Tracy Davis. Ms. Davis, were you able to find something on that default that we had? I don't want to mention the company's name, but were you able to find anything on that default that they're supposed to refund us?
I have not.
Okay.
And it wouldn't necessarily be a refund. We wouldn't have necessarily given them the funds because they didn't meet their requirements. It would have just been, we would decrease the amount that they were given.
Okay.
So I'll check on that and get an update to you.
Very good. I appreciate it.
And if I may? I've been a part of the Opportunity Capture Fund for about the last 2-3 years, and in that situation, I did want to mention, it isn't Elevate, and also subsequently, we changed the policy to prevent that from happening again. These are taxpayer dollars, and we want to be very fiscally responsible with this. Anomalies happen, it happened, we learned from it, and we changed our policy, so we're moving forward. I wholeheartedly believe in investing into this Opportunity Capture Fund because that means that we are investing in business in our community, and not only just to start up these businesses, but to keep them here and keep them growing. So that is very important. I just wanted to make sure that those 2 points were clarified. In addition, going back to the Youth City Council, Mr. Nordstrom is the new liaison to the Youth City Council, and I believe with his experience on council and now with his partnership with Youth City Council, I think that would be great for you to guide them in that. The fact that they wanted to do this, Youth City Council has been going on for 3 years, and still people are not aware that we have future leaders here that are working every month to help involve the youth and show them it's not just something that you learn in school, you regurgitate, you take a test, and you move on. This is active governance, and I have full faith that Mr. Nordstrom can help them use their budgeting skills and hone them, because I think it's important to let them know, let our community know what they're doing in our community. And I think that is all the notes that I have. Any other discussions? We've had some really good conversations today. I would welcome a motion. Okay. We've got a motion from Mr. Nordstrom for items 1 through 8, and a second by Mr. Jones. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Okay, moving to public comment. I'm not seeing anybody. We'll close public comment. Okay, for number 9, we have the second reading recommendation ordinance number 6552 regarding supplemental appropriation number 4 for 202. I have a motion to approve by Mr. Jones, second by Mr. Nordstrom. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Number 10, approve the tentative real estate purchase agreements for lots 4 and 5 of Owen Hibbard subdivision and authorize mayor and staff to execute any documents necessary to complete the transfer of the property consistent with the purchase agreement. Motion to approve by Mr. Jones, second by Mr. Roseland. All in favor? Aye. Any again? Okay. And then we have some Alderman items. Mr. Jones, you want to share some committee assignment updates?
Thank you, Chairman. I am actively involved on the Humane Society Board of Directors. We are working on fundraising, building improvements, public awareness. They are able to get back out into the schools now and bring animals and do things that they weren't able to do because of COVID. So that's exciting that a lot of those kind of programs are going on. And then, of course, adoptions. The shelter's rather full right now, and so they are encouraging people to come adopt a forever friend to take home with them. So those folks are always busy, always doing good work for the community. The next Parking Authority board that I sit on will be meeting October 4th at 8 in the morning in these chambers. That group reviews city parking needs, parking structures, also hears appeals from those who want to appeal receiving a parking ticket. Recently attended ribbon cuttings at Black Hills Aquatic Adventures. Blue Peak was yesterday, and Old Navy is having their ribbon cutting this Saturday, and I'm looking forward to attending that. Some neighborhood issues that we're working on in Ward 1 include street repairs, some trash collection issues. Some areas have been missed occasionally, so we're trying to figure out why that's going on. Some speeding concerns, and then some sidewalks that need to be placed in some areas where there's just some gaps between one neighbor's house and another neighbor's house, and we find out this is a piece of city land that, oh, it needs to have a sidewalk too. So we're just trying to clean up some things like that. And then recently attended the Sports Authority meeting that is put on in conjunction with Visit Rapid City as they're working towards trying to create that for our town. Very, very exciting. Tremendous potential for things for Rapid City with that, and so we're hoping that will continue to move forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Jones. Mr. Roseland, anything you'd like to share?
Yeah, Sports Authority meeting the other day. Brand new, exciting news for Rapid City, and I'm looking forward to getting a little more involved in that. And it's all basically new to me, and so I think it's something that I can probably put my name on. I attended a luncheon at Rapid City Airport the other day, talking about the airport expansion, and again, very interesting in what they're going through and why they're doing it. And so I thought that was very informative. Basically, with things happening in Ward 5, I was invited to an art and engineering talk at Elevate a couple weeks ago, basically getting the students at School of Mines involved in art and in their engineering program, and they put on a very good display of, they've made swords, and one of the guys was on the TV show, can't remember the name of it, that makes swords.
Forest of Fire.
Forest of Fire, and he was very excited about that. He didn't win, but in my mind, he won just being there. Went to Wilson School Forum. There's a lot of interest on what's happening in Wilson School in Ward 5. It was a very good talk. Kumar was there along with the I can't remember her name right offhand, the chief of the school system. And a lot of good information was brought out, along with 4 or 5 of the school board members were there. It didn't really make us feel any better about Wilson School, but it made us understand what's going on there. And so I think that helped out a lot, and maybe we'll have another meeting in the future. Also met with Chief Culbertson at the fire department just for more information for myself. It was always a good time to visit with him and let him know what I'm questioning about, and obviously him sharing with me. So it was a very good talk, and I'm looking forward to another one sometime. I yield.
Thank you, Mr. Roseland. Mr. Solomon, anything you'd like to share?
Thank you, Madam Chair. And, you know, one thing I would add to that Sports Authority deal is the fact that they're creating a master plan that's going to take an inventory of all of our recreational facilities and opportunities now, which they have, and they've identified some areas that need improvement. The reason this is important is because we know that tournaments, sports tournaments are big money. They're multi-day events where families come out either regionally, statewide, and sometimes nationally. And so we know that, and we have a gem to show off here. So I think we're all very interested in seeing where that goes. It might require investment, so I think that's one of those things we're going to have to pay attention to. I attended the Elevate Rapid City Board meeting just this morning, and also had a good visit. Alderman Evans and I had a good visit with them last week. They're going to finalize the sale of the Accelerator building on the campus of School of Mines, probably Friday, but you know, you never know with these things, but that's the goal. That was approved a long time ago, but these things go through a lot of legalities to get there, and they will reinvest that to help cover some of the debt of the D-Lab, the David Luss Accelerator Center building. So I think that'll be good. One thing from my meeting that we had with Tom Johnson, we've heard about this, and I thought I'd bring this to the council's attention. We heard about this, but Mr. Evans and I saw this firsthand. When they say that they can do compensation analysis and compare us to other markets for very particular jobs, they are not playing around. We got a demonstration, real-time demonstration, and we're just throwing things left and right about jobs and how it compares to other markets. And it's a little bit frustrating that we aren't leveraging this. So they have offered that if we ever need to look up what a job is going for to make sure that it is competitive, whether it's, you know, police officers or chief financial officers, things like that. Bill and I were looking up various things, other positions that some people may have approved in the last budget. All of those things are part of it. What I'm saying is we actually have a very robust tool at our fingertips. And while 800, you know, municipal jobs is a little difficult to sometimes get apples to apples comparison on, I was really impressed by what they could do, and especially for these one-off positions, you know, non-union jobs type of deals, the professional jobs, whether it's a city attorney or you name it, chief accountants, all of that kind of stuff. If there's a position that we want to make sure that we're paying market for, you don't want to pay more than is needed, but you also don't want to underpay and not able to fill them. So I was just going to tell, this is one thing we've heard about it, and we heard that it couldn't necessarily apply to everything that we have. That might be true. But what I saw is, just from my business hat, it was robust, and it is available. And I would encourage us that if we're ever in those positions, let's take that in consideration. Let's not let that be a hang-up. I don't want to have to do a study and wait 6 months for it for one position. That is unnecessary. And in fact, we have an investment in the Economic Development Partnership, and part of our investment provides this information. In fact, they use it for Old Navy when they're coming to town to say, what should your starting salaries be, or else you're not going to have anybody to hire. They were able to provide that information just as they would to us. So it's one of those things where you hear about it, but when you see it firsthand and you're like, you know what, this could work. And so I want to make sure the city staff know that that's a tool that's available to you. Just go through the HR department, and they apparently do know about it. So we want to make sure that that's being leveraged well. And I have a couple other initiatives, but I think it's not quite time for me to share about those, but I'll clue you guys on in the near future. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Solomon. Mr. Nordstrom.
Thank you, Madam Chair. A long list of things that are taking place. So I'll give you I'll give you the headlines. The Journey Museum is putting on another shoebox event, meaning that they have got quite a collection of artifacts that haven't been really well cataloged. So we're going to try to get together to figure out how to come about with a different method or a different process, or maybe adding on to the Journey Museum or something. Anyway, what to do with those artifacts. Quickly has to do with RSVP. Plus is I'm the liaison for that group, and they are doing a fantastic job of recruiting new volunteers for that organization, and we now have essentially West River, it's almost West River, but there's a lot of activities going on with RSVP Plus all the way from Rapid City to Spearfish. Lots of activities going on. I, too, attended the Sports Commission, and I think it's something that we can use as a model for some other things that we can utilize here within Rapid City. The last one other event I attended was Coffee with the Cop. If you ever get an invite, I would suggest getting to that event is to learn about what is happening from the law enforcement side in downtown Rapid City. The next one is the IAG, the Infrastructure Advisory Group. We got together again, and we are putting together an agenda. It's pretty aggressive, and we hope to have something by early part of next year to present to the Common Council. I also attended the STEAM Cafe this last Tuesday. There was a very interesting presentation by one of the students that's doing graduate work. Had to do with a special interest of mine is how they are going to handle or come up with a different process of handling wastewater in smaller systems. So it looks very interesting. I've asked for a white paper on that. Hopefully I'll get this chance to read that over. The TIF committee got together, and we've got another potential development going up on the north side of town with the next to the what is it, soccer field? I forgot the name of the soccer field up there, but anyway, there's a development that's being proposed up to that area. Very early stages of that coming up. I was also attended the Prairie Edge event for the powwow that's coming up, and so that we got to listen to some of the speakers, some of the people that are in charge of the powwow, and what's going to be happening with that. Coming up is an opportunity to meet with the new executive director of the DAL, and I'm very anxious about meeting with her I think it's Thursday, we're getting it together. The next thing that's upcoming is we've got some groundbreaking event that's going to be taking place at the School of Mines, a new mineralogy building, and that'll be quite a research facility that's going to be added to the School of Mines facility. And then the last event that I'm going to be headed off to Watertown for the Municipal League, and I'll look forward to giving a report on what we're learning at Municipal League. Lots of stuff going on. More to come. Thank you.
Thank you for going to your committee assignments, gentlemen. I'm going to share mine real quick. Through the Rapid City Public Library, Faye Bryce was recognized by the State Library Association, so congratulations to her. Our Human Relations Commission, we do have a commissioner opening. If you are passionate about inclusion and diversity within our community, please fill out a citizen interest application. I think the deadline is October 14th. Met with the airport yesterday, the Airport Governance Advisory Committee, and we will be meeting again next month. Well, of course, we were also talking about the airport expansion. We have our parking ramp renovation coming up, or there's a meeting coming up this Friday in these chambers between 9 and 10:30 if you want to come in and educate yourself. And then, of course, all of this information will be forwarded to our City Council meeting on Monday, October 3rd in these chambers. We did not address 11 and 12, so I would, we have number 11, acknowledge the August 22 General Fund Cash Balance Report. I'll welcome a motion. Okay, a motion to acknowledge by Mr. Solomon, second by Mr. Nordstrom. All in favor? Aye. Thank you. And number 12, acknowledge the July 2022 sales tax report. Another acknowledgement by Mr. Solomon and a second by Mr. Jones. All in favor? Thank you, and I will take a motion to adjourn. Adjourn by everybody and a second by everybody. We'll see you on Monday. Thank you.